مرحبا بكم في قناة أطلانتس، قناة العملات القديمة والنادرة. لا تنسوا بالضغط على زر الإعجاب وتفعيل جرس الاشتراك حتى يصلكم كل جديد على قناتنا.
Double Eagle Coin. The gold coin known as Double Eagle is one of the most precious and most expensive pieces in the world today, not because it belongs to a distant time dating back to 1933, which means that it is only 88 years old, but because it is the last gold coin that was struck in the United States of America before moving on to the use of paper currencies. In addition to the transition to paper money, the American government has collected gold coins and has melted, but illegally, certain gold coins have slipped into the hands of certain individuals, including this currency that the American authorities tracked for decades, believing that its circulation is illegal and that it belongs to it. The currency has gone from an owner to another over the years, legally and illegally, and one of its owners was King Farouk, King of Egypt, who acquired him in the 40s of the last century, because he had a big penchant for the collection of antiques and rare pieces of all kinds. A few days ago, this gold coin, considered one of the most precious currencies in the world, was sold during an auction in New York organized by Sotheby's International for more than $19 million, and it is considered the most expensive price for a coin at all. This currency has an interesting story, because it is the only remaining on 445,000 similar pieces, struck in 1933, but it was not put into circulation on the market, because the American President Franklin Roosevelt cancelled the work with gold parts to be replaced by tickets. And when they were counted before being melted, 10 missing pieces were discovered, and the intelligence services were responsible for looking for them, and they were able to recover 9 pieces, leaving only a missing which finally was sold. According to the Sotheby's website in its introduction to the room, it is the only double eagle of 1933 issued by the currency of the United States which was available to be the private property of a person. All the other existing examples, the same part is the property of the state, nor no one is authorized to acquire it because it is illegal and exposes its owner to legal responsibility and the confiscation of currencies. The site presented the sequence of ownership of the currency since its program in 1933, starting with the American government, passing by all those who acquired it, including King Farouk, and even its last owner, known as from Stuart Weitzman. The beginning. The story of this rare piece, called Double Eagle, dates back to 1933 when the U.S. government decided to strike a new gold coin weighing around 28 grams and valued at $20. And because the American president of the time, Franklin Roosevelt, wanted to improve the American pieces and make them more beautiful, the famous sculptor St. Gaudens was appointed to do this task, and therefore this gold coin was known under the name of St. Gaudens Play with Double Eagle Gold according to his sculptor, and he called it Double Eagle because the eagle's piece was only worth $10, while this gold coin was worth $20. The room carries an image of a woman symbolizing freedom on one side and an American eagle on the other side. The currencies of the United States of America at the time were subject to the law on the gold stallion, which means that there should be a gold stallion in the public treasury for each striped piece, which means that you must first get gold before hitting any new currency. Great Depression. Due to the Great Depression of 1933, the American people tended to store gold. Then the American President Franklin Roosevelt published a decree prohibiting the storage of gold coins and gold lights inside the United States, and the government urged citizens to present what they had gold, including the Double Eagle coin, in what was known as Executive Decree No. 6102. U.S. President Franklin Roosevelt has published a decree prohibiting the hoarding of gold. Despite the publication of this decision, the currency continued to produce the new gold play because orders were not given to stop the strike until late after having already struck 445,500 coins, but it was never distributed. Farouk King's Coin. On February 23, 1944, the coins merchant, Max Mehel, sold a double eagle currency at King Farouk for $1,575, and she would have been bought and sent to the Farouk king by the Egyptian embassy, United. During this period, which saw the Second World War, diplomatic courtesies and strategic alliances prevailed, and consequently the question was not addressed and King Farouk kept the currency among his assets. In 1949, the U.S. Treasury tried to recover the room, but that did not succeed and the request was rejected. Later, the July Revolution took place and King Farouk was dethroned by free officers, after what a good number of his antiquities and possessions were sold at auction, which prompted Washington to raise the question again, for fear that someone will buy it at an auction, so the crisis was reappeared, and it demanded that the American embassy in Cairo withdraws it from the auction, since it belonged to the Egyptian government with a special American permit and could not be sold to individuals. Was removed from the auction. The last chapter of Double Eagle's flight. According to the website of the auction house, after decades, more precisely in 1995, the room appeared in London with a British expert in the trade in antiques and old currency named Stephen Fenton to lift again the question. He was therefore arrested and the play was confiscated to testify to a legal dispute which lasted years between the American government and Fenton about the property of money. The federal government confirms that it owns it and that it was stolen more than half a century ago, and Stephen Fenton claims that he is the owner of the room, and Washington relied on the part had been stolen, while Fenton relied on King Farouk ownership papers for money, because there was a document containing information relating to its shipment. The government said that the simple fact of issuing an export license before discovering the flight of currencies did not transform the stolen goods into legally held property. With the approach of the date of the trial, the two parties decided to settle the case for their own reasons. Fenton sold the Double Eagle piece in 2001 to the American government, which agreed to sell it and share the product equal to each other, keeping in mind that these regulations were applied to any other Double Eagle piece. In 2002, the legendary Double Eagle was sold at auction as part of a contract approved by lawyers of the auction house, the U.S. government and Stephen Fenton, declaring that it is the only piece of Double Eagle currency dating from 1933 which can be legally owned by any individual. The room was sold at that time to Stuart Weitzman at a price that broke the record for all currencies and amounted to $7,590,020, which reflects the unique position of the golden piece that was talking about the world at the time and the subject of many of the articles and reports that presented it and its history, and a documentary film was produced about it, to finally reappear after having sold it a few days ago American auction house, at the price of nearly $20 million. Other coins. In 2004, the heirs of the gold merchant Sweet Israel discovered another 10-room treasury golden eagle in a safe confiscated later by the government and stored in Fort Knox. The family spent 11 years in the courts to keep the documents, and in 2015, a federal court of appeal ruled that the American government made these pieces confiscated to the heirs of Sweet, a family of Pennsylvania which includes the daughter of Israel Sweet and his two sons. After a vote for 2 against 1, the Third Circuit of the United States Court of Appeal in Pennsylvania said that Joanne Langbord, daughter of Israel Sweet, and his two sons, Ray and David, are the legal owners of the documents gold of $20. Marked with a double eagle, after the government has ignored their claim of the documents and could not comply with the deadline for judicial confiscation procedures. But the authorities did not abandon, and the case reached the Supreme Court, and in the end the judges ruled that it was also the property of the government. The government has been suspected for a long time, but without evidence, that the gold merchant Israel Sweet has smuggled some of the documents with the help of a currency employee. Langbord property was confiscated by the government after the family put them in a safe which formerly belonged to Sweet. In 2018, an anonymous collector voluntarily gave a piece of this value to the authorities. Are there other double eagle parts? You can find one by chance, but beware, this piece can lead you to prison.